Let's talk about health inequities. What are health inequities? Basically, those are differences in health between groups of people, between countries, or within countries. Now, obviously, there will always be differences in health between people. Some people are healthier than others, naturally. Some of this is due to genetic differences or lifestyle differences. Health inequities, however, are avoidable differences, which have social reasons or economic reasons. We will explore this further in our session today. So first of all, let's look at an official definition of health inequities provided by the World Health Organization, WHO. According to the World Health Organization, health inequities are avoidable inequalities in health between groups of people within countries and between countries. These inequities arise from inequalities within and between societies, social and economic condition, and their effects on people's lives determine their risk of illness and the actions taken to prevent them becoming ill or treat illness when it occurs. Let's look at some examples of health inequities between countries. We can use infant mortality rate as an example. The infant mortality rate is an indicator of health. You probably remember the definition of the infant mortality rate from our previous session on demographic indicators. Basically, the infant mortality rate is the risk of a baby dying between birth and 1 year of age. And there are sometimes drastic differences between countries in terms of infant mortality rate. First of all, let's look at Iceland. Iceland is a Nordic country in the North Atlantic Ocean. It has a population of 300,000 and an area of about 100,000 square kilometers, making it one of the most sparsely populated countries in Europe. It's a very remote country. The living standards in Iceland are relatively high. And this is reflected by some important health indicators, such as the infant mortality rate. The infant mortality rate in Iceland is about 2 per 1,000 live births. So out of 1,000 live births, on average, 2 infants will die. This is a very low number, which indicates that Iceland has a high level of health in terms of infant mortality rate. Now let's look at another country which is very different from Iceland. It's a country in Africa. It's Mozambique. Mozambique is a country in Southeast Africa with a population of about 25 million. The infant mortality rate in Mozambique is 120 per 1,000 live births. So this is much higher than the rate in Iceland. And this is not surprising, since living standards, economic development is much lower in Mozambique compared to Iceland. Let's take a look at the world map. Here you can see the infant mortality rates in all countries, and you can see clear patterns, correlations between the level of development of countries and its infant mortality rate. You can see Iceland is depicted in green color, which means it has one of the lowest infant mortality rates in the world. Other countries with such low infant mortality rates are, for example, Canada, Spain, France, Australia, and Japan. Those countries with the highest infant mortality rates are mostly located in Africa, as you can see on the map. Other regions with relatively high infant mortality rates are South Asia, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, also Myanmar and Cambodia, for instance. Some countries in Latin America as well. Other countries are somewhere in between. As you can see, if you take a look at Southeast Asia and if you look at Thailand, you can see that Thailand has a considerably lower infant mortality rate compared to its direct neighboring countries. Again, which is not surprising because Thailand has a considerably higher level of development compared to its neighboring countries. Let's look at another health indicator, the lifetime risk of maternal death during or shortly after pregnancy. And again, we look at two specific countries first. Let's start with Sweden. Sweden is a Scandinavian country in Northern Europe with a total population of about 10 million. As you can see, the lifetime risk of maternal death in Sweden is 1 in 17,400. That is according to the World Health Organization. That means that out of 17,400 mothers, one mother will die in the process of giving birth. This is a very low number. Let's look at a very different country now, Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a landlocked country located within South Asia and Central Asia, and it has a population of about 32 million. The lifetime risk of maternal death in Afghanistan is 1 in 8 according to the World Health Organization. As you can see, this is drastically different from the lifetime risk of maternal death in Sweden. The lifetime risk of maternal death in Afghanistan is much, much higher. Out of 8 women giving birth, 1 will die, which is a very, very high and extreme number. It's not surprising again, since Afghanistan has a much, much lower level of development compared to Sweden. In addition to that, it has faced war and violent conflict in the last 10 and 15 years. Also here we can take a look at a world map which shows maternal mortality in all countries. And again you see a very similar pattern here. The maternal mortality is lowest in the most developed countries, such as those countries in Northern America, in Western Europe, some countries in Asia, like Japan, for example, also Australia. And again, those countries with the highest maternal mortality rates are situated mostly in Africa. Again, some countries in South Asia, and some countries in Latin America. Again, you can see that Thailand, compared to its direct neighbors, has a considerably lower maternal mortality rate. Again, this is due to its much higher level of economic and social development compared to its neighboring countries.